Christopher Stalford, no certainty on healthcare, no certainty on immigration, no certainty on trade. How can you share the confidence of the British government?
Well, I think firstly and most importantly, this is the fulfilment of the desires expressed by the British people in the referendum. And people sometimes get very cynical about politics and think that voting doesn't change things. But here we have a Prime Minister who was on the side of Remain during the referendum campaign, implementing the expressed will of the people of this country. So this is a momentous and a historic day.
But how can you be certain that we won't be damaged?
Well, the fact is that we are now entering a period of negotiation. Now, we have had all sorts of tactics to try and prevent us from getting to this point. People were running off to the courts trying to nullify the outcome of the referendum. But we are now here, and I believe firmly, not only in relation to our own unique situation with the Republic of Ireland, but also in terms of the other EU member states, if there is a will to resolve the issues that need to be resolved, I believe that a way can be found. And I do believe that we are right to be optimistic about the future of this country. And I say that not only in relation to Northern Ireland, but in relation to the United Kingdom as a whole. People are nervous. I accept that people are nervous and people have concerns. But that's why, whether you were for Remain or whether you were for Leave in the referendum, it's now incumbent upon all of us to work together to secure the best outcome for the people.
John O'Dowd, I want to bring you in. Your emphasis today has been on special status. Surely that's already been ruled out. That's not going to happen.
No, and anyone who's been listening to the interview given by Theresa May there has found that there's no answers to any of the questions that were put to her other than that will be sorted out in negotiations.
But that's the only way she can answer them, because we don't know.
So there's no deal. The Brexit is not yet a finished, complete package.
But special status has been ruled out.
No, there's voices in Europe saying that there requires to be special status, special circumstances, unique circumstances on the island of Ireland, all have to be dealt with. So the Brexit deal is not yet complete. So there's an onus on local political parties, there's an onus on the Irish government, and there's an onus on those within Europe who have been contributors to the peace process to ensure that we do have a special status here, we have special circumstances here, and ensure that the unique makeup of this society, the unique economic pressures that we'll be under as a result of Brexit are all dealt with in a special circumstances within
No one is
the EU.
arguing that there are special circumstances, but what are you specifically looking for?
We are looking our membership of the EU protected. We are looking to ensure that the rights and entitlements of citizens currently under EU membership are protected, that the economic realities of living on this island are enshrined in any agreement, and that we can, as citizen and under the terms of the Good Friday Agreement, access the protections which EU membership offers. Those are the areas in which we're looking.
So you want to stay in the EU?
Ideally, we want to stay in the EU. But we have to now reach agreement with the other political parties in which we are attempting to rebuild the power sharing agreement with. But ideally we want to stay within the EU. But there are unique relationships already within the EU with different countries and regions of countries within the EU. So that's not a unique thing we're asking for. The EU has been imaginative in the past. We're asking for the EU and the British government and local parties to be imaginative now.
But there may well be opposition from other members of the EU who don't want to see Northern Ireland getting special status or any sort of special arrangements.
There may well be. But let's sit down and ensure that those countries are talked to and the dialogue takes place with those countries to explain the unique circumstances we have. Let's see what challenges they have and let's deal with those countries and talk through their concerns.
But we can't do that without a devolved assembly.
But you see, I think this is an important point. We do require a devolved assembly, we do require a local voice. But I attended meetings with the British government along with the Scottish and Welsh executive. And the Scottish and Welsh executive give detailed papers over to the British government. None of those papers have been taken into account by the British government.
So has the British government ignored the devolved institutions? That's certainly what Scotland and Wales are feeling.
Well, I think it's important to note that a majority of people in Wales actually voted to leave. And so if the Welsh government is trying to prevent Wales from leaving with the rest of the United Kingdom...
No, but they want a good deal just as much as Northern Ireland and Scotland want a good deal.
And I think that's important that we recognise the fact that we are being hamstrung by not having devolved institutions up and running, and I certainly want to see that happen. I want to see government up in Stormont raising the sorts of issues that are unique to Northern Ireland. From my perspective, I do think it's important to note, people talk about respecting mandates. More people voted to leave the European Union in the United Kingdom than have ever voted for any political party or any proposition on a ballot paper in our history.
But it's a difficult one because more people in Northern Ireland, and you do talk about democracy,
Absolutely,
did vote.
They did. But the question on the ballot paper related to, should the United Kingdom remain a member of the European Union?
Just a quick question on that though. Has the DUP promoting Brexit not been a disaster? United Ireland is now being talked about more than it has been for years, and also the potential breakup of the United Kingdom with Scotland potentially leaving.
Well, there is an irony in this, that nationalists who apparently tell us they hate being ruled by London are insistent on being ruled by Brussels. From my perspective, I'm confident in my unionism. I'm confident that actually the challenge for unionist parties, Tara, lies in the fact that we need to encourage the huge majority of people who I believe would vote for the union in a referendum to vote for unionist parties, and that's our challenge going forward. OK,
John O'Dowd, a quick word. This plays well for Sinn Féin, doesn't it? Because it gives you a disastrous backdrop, you would argue, to promote a united Ireland.
Well, we don't want a disastrous backdrop to promote a united Ireland. We want to promote a united Ireland, but we want a stable economy and a stable society across the island of Ireland. The question of reunification stands alone, in my opinion. But Brexit has raised the issue, and Brexit has raised the issue not only among nationalists and Republicans, but also unionists. And I'm not saying it's a significant number, but there are unionists who are now questioning where their identity lies. Okay. Does it lie in an inward-looking state, or does it lie in a state which is outward-looking?
I'm sorry.
Let me finish the point. You have plenty of time to speak.
Go on ahead.
Does their future lie in an outward-looking state which has a relationship with the European Union, or does it lie in an inward-looking British state? They're asking themselves that question.
The future of the people of Northern Ireland lies in a truly global United Kingdom, not manacled. Excuse me, now you had your say, John. Not manacled to an ever-decreasing trading bloc. Our future lies looking outwards positively to the rest of the world. OK.
Steve, I mean, obviously we've heard from the border there, and this idea of a seamless border, it just hasn't been spelt out yet. Is that your biggest concern?
No, I think the biggest concern I have going forward is how we're going to deal with the €1 billion worth of trade a week that goes back and forth across the Irish Sea, and what sort of conditions and what sort of things can we do to make sure that that is seamless. Because actually the United Kingdom has been a trading nation for well over sort of 1,000 odd years. It will make the border system work. The question we need to do is how we can keep the trade moving, how we can keep the movement of people going, how we can keep the common travel area up, and how we can build all these things together. And we as a party are talking now about trying to get a kind of enabling treaty between the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland, which deals with the modalities of these issues. And I think that's an important thing going forward. Because it comes to things like agribusiness, things like veterinary rules, it comes to rules for freight, it comes to all the sort of those little things that need to be sorted out. And if we can make trade and movement as seamless as possible, we can get away from any concerns we have about the border going forward.
Sinead, a lot of the economic disaster that was predicted hasn't so far materialised. Do you share Theresa May's optimism today that really we can go forward and have a fairer United Kingdom?
Well, of course, Tara, Theresa May was today her usual very composed and rehearsed self. But if one thing was clear, it is that Theresa May does not have a plan, and she does not have any clear idea of what the implications of a Brexit will actually mean. And in particular, I will look in a Northern Ireland context. There was a promise that the Prime Minister would be here ahead of any triggering. That didn't happen. And I suggest that the token gesturism that has been nodded to Northern Ireland today indicates that really I have no confidence, and the SDLP have no confidence in a Conservative government leading us through a Brexit deal.
But what about those special new increased powers for the devolved assemblies? Does that not give you confidence that if we do get devolution up and running again, that we might have more power?
There are so many variables there, and unfortunately one thing we can all agree on is that business, no matter what type or sector it's in, business does not like instability. And unfortunately there are so many issues there that businesses are asking, trying to make decisions based on. Northern Ireland in particular is the single region that has most difficulty and no answers. We have no answers today, and we are no further on, but we have a determined Theresa May that is going ahead with this regardless of the majority of voices from Northern Ireland, and regardless of the possible consequences to businesses and life in general in Northern Ireland.
Stephen Farry, when it comes to borders, other countries do successfully manage this. Do you not think, I mean, take Canada and the US, a much bigger, obviously, geographical area than we have here in Ireland. So do you not think it can be sorted out?
But the central point there is it is an actual border. It is a hard, real border. Even if you look at the Norway-Sweden model, which has also been suggested, there has to be physical checks. If the UK...
But a lot of technology is used.
Technology can be used to a certain extent, but if we leave the customs union, then we're going to see a situation where there has to be some degree of physical checks. But some of the terms you're going to hear about over the coming number of months are things like rules of origin. So we have to police what comes into Northern Ireland. I mean, Northern Ireland can't be a backdoor in terms of abuse of the customs union rules. So
in a way, we do need a border. Is that what you're saying?
Well, what we need to do is actually work out some sort of special deal for Northern Ireland. That involves, for example, Northern Ireland staying part of the single market and also staying on the right side of the customs union. Now, those are major challenges ahead for us, but those are fundamentally in our interest. I mean, this is actually a very sad day for the UK as a whole. The UK is going to be very much a diminished nation as a consequence of this, but Northern Ireland is in a real dilemma. And to put it in this context, Tara, Northern Ireland works on the basis of sharing, integration and interdependence. Brexit is about making hard choices around boundaries and borders, and that's fundamentally not in our interest.
OK. Stephen Farry, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed for joining us this evening.